and welcome to September's edition of CUNA Economic Update. My name is David Kabeda, Senior Economist here at CUNA, and today I'll briefly talk to you about the economic forecast and what that means for credit unions. There are two major factors that played a key role when we do the forecast, and the Delta variant is at the center of both these assumptions. As you all know, the number of cases of the Delta variant starts to go up since mid-July. And that has brought back fear of face-to-face interaction across the country. But as you can see on the left side of the graph, it looks like the number of cases and hospitalizations has started to slow down. It looks like the virus is reaching at its peak because the curve for both parameters is bending down. There is also another sign of hope. It looks like vaccination is really going up. The total percentage of fully vaccinated people is 55%. That's 5 percentage points higher than a few months ago. And if we look at the vaccination rate among people who are actually eligible to take the vaccine, that number is really up, and that is shown on the right side of this graph. This slide shows you the index of consumer sentiment that's published by the University of Michigan. And it's very important because it's used to gauge consumers' opinion about the overall health of the economy. It measures about their attitude to business, personal finance, and also probability of spending. And as you can see on the circled portion of this graph, you can see that it has taken a deep dive during the first early days of the pandemic. And since the end of last year and the first half of this year, it has started to go up, reaching 88.3 in April, and it starts to go down slightly. However, in August, the consumer sentiment index experienced the largest dip since April of last 2020. And now it stood at 70.3, which is 13 points decline on a monthly basis. The US economy has registered very strong growth in the first half of this year. First quarter, the annualized quarterly GDP growth was 6.3, and the second quarter was 6.6. This actually not only recovered the economy from its previous level, but it actually exceeded its pre-pandemic level of economic output. That's the value of all goods and services measured. And this was mainly because we experienced increased consumer spending due to expanded vaccination. Not only that, we have also seen increases in non-residential fixed investments, exports, and local and government spending was also high because of government assistance in the second quarter. However, because of the Delta variant, this momentum seems to be cooling off in the third quarter. We are experiencing a decline in consumption of goods and services, and also supply disruptions, global supply chain disruption are also slowing down consumption of durable goods. And on the right side, you can see the trend in personal consumption expenditure, which has really started to increase since last year and reaching a high 15.8 trillion in July of this year. But that increase started to plateau. So that's the lost momentum that we are seeing. And a very good example of this is the total vehicle sales in the country. This graph shows you how our total auto sales take a deep dive early in the pandemic, and it starts to go up, reaching a maximum of above 17.5 million vehicles sold annualized in the month of April. But then in the second portion, you can see that it has taken a deep dive. And that's mainly because there are some supply chain bottlenecks that created a shortage of semiconductor chips that are very important in the manufacture of vehicles. And this has caused the lowest inventory ever in the United States for new vehicles. And the August number is annualized 13.3 million. That's a very low number. And it looks like this problem is going to continue because of the impact of Delta in Asian countries that will continue the shortage of chips for the rest of the year. The economy has also added a significant number of jobs for the last 5 months. Especially in June and July, we have seen about 1 million increase in new non-farm employment every month. So if you look at the average until July, that's 700,000 per month growth in the number of jobs until the dip in August. A lot of economists expected the job growth in August would be the same, about 700,000. But because of the Delta variant, that number came down really short. And the one important thing here is that employers still have high demand for labor. The job openings data shows that there are about 10 million jobs available every month for almost the last 3 months. And the combination of availability of jobs with lower demand for to join the labor market has really caused wages to go up. And according to data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, we have seen wage growth for the last 5 months in a row, every month. On this slide, you will see on the left side, you will see the 12 months percentage change in headline consumer price index. The headline consumer price index, it just measures how prices are changing for major goods and services in the country. And this price has been going up recently, especially since April of this year. One of these is because the economy reopened quickly in the first and second quarter. Spending was really high. So there was a lot of demand and the demand couldn't catch up with supply. So that was partly the reason why prices were going up. And also prices were compared to the levels last year, which were really low. And the Delta variant didn't help because it created supply chain disruptions that continued the shortage of goods in many sectors, the auto sector being one of them that I just discussed. So CUNA economists expect that the inflation would go up 5.5% by the end of this year, and it will slow down to 2.5% by 2022. And this is mainly, we believe, most of the bottlenecks in the supply chain will ease and prices will go down to 2.5%. On the right side, you see the long-term inflation expectations. That's a graph that taken from the speech by Fed Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. Even though we are seeing these temporary increases in prices, the long-term expectation for prices is really low, which is closer to the Fed's target of 2%. As a result, CUNA economists do not expect any change in interest rate hikes in 2021 and in 2022. But if the economic condition is better than we have forecasted, this could happen by late 2022. But Jerome Powell recently announced that even though the Fed might start tapering off on asset purchases as soon as the end of this year, the rate hike will not come unless the economy is in a very good shape. Here, this slide shows you the credit union loan and memberships growth. The second quarter, we have seen a very strong performance in credit union loans and memberships. And this is mainly because of the strong economic performance that we have seen and the spending increase in the first half of the year. And because of this, we expect credit union loans to grow 6% in 2021 and 9% in 2022. And this is, the 9% is like a convergence to the last 5-year trend in 2022. And for credit union membership, we believe that the memberships will grow 3.4% by the end of this year, and it will grow 4% by 2022. And this is mainly because historically, membership growth has been really high after economic crisis wanes. This slide shows you savings growth. One of the indicators that we have observed strong performance is saving and asset growth of credit unions in the second quarter. This was this was the first quarter because the second quarter savings declined a little bit because in the first quarter we have seen savings boost because of government stimulus payments, and this direct payment to householders actually has gone down in the second quarter of 2021, and savings were also down in 2021. So because of this, we revised our savings forecast for the end of 2021 from 15% to 12%. In 2022, this would grow with 6%. And in 2022, we forecast asset growth to increase by 5.5% and 11.5% in 2021. This slide shows you the credit union delinquency rate, historical and the forecast. So asset quality is near at its healthiest in the history of the credit union data. The delinquency rate in the second quarter fell to 46 basis points. And most of the factors that contributed to low delinquency, which is the government support and extended unemployment benefits, have already ended. And as a result, we expect, like CUNA economists expect, the delinquency to go up slightly to 65 basis points in 2021 and 60 basis points in 2022. Although that represents a slight increase from last year, this is still lower than the trend. Another strong performance we have seen is in net charge-offs. The net charge-offs during the second quarter were 24 basis points annualized. So none of our economic forecasting members have seen a delinquency rate this low. And I tell you, they have a combined experience of over 100 years in the credit union industry. So as a result, we have to revise down the net charge-offs forecast for 2021. So we believe the annualized rate for 2021 would be 31 basis points. And in 2022, these may go up to 50 basis points because most of the government support that resulted in a very healthy asset quality will stop, and this trend may go up. But again, this 50 basis point is like comparable to a long-run average. Return on average assets is also one of the indicators that we have seen a very strong performance for credit unions in the second quarter. The first quarter was also by itself was a very stellar performance, which is 1.04%, and the second quarter came in at 1.16%. But this return on asset number is not evenly distributed across all credit unions. If you see the graph on the right hand side, it just shows you how that is distributed across asset sizes. And most of the increase in return on asset comes from credit unions with assets 1 billion and over. That's 1.26%. The next largest asset group, which is credit unions with assets between 500 and 1 billion, they have 87 basis points in return on assets. And then the smallest credit union, the return on assets only 16 basis points. So the distribution is not even. Going forward, we believe that earnings will be hindered by tight interest margins, supply chain challenges in the auto industry, and cooling of the housing market. However, credit unions should expect a robust 95 basis points return on asset for 2021. And for 2022, these may go down to 70 basis points. The CUNA economists forecast that this 2022 number may have some downside risks because of further falling in interest rate margins, provisions going back to normal, and the probability of lower mortgage origination rates on refinances. And this table summarizes all the credit union forecast for key indicators, and I will leave it here for your reference. Thank you very much for listening to me. And until we meet next time for the October economic update, goodbye.